Captain Batel is allergic to
Uh,
cryo serum. La'an wakes up in a slime sack, and half of Ortegas' arm is frickin' gone. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Hand is frickin' gone. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we're doing a review of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 3. It's finally here. The 2-year wait is over. The episode is entitled Hegemony, Part 2, written by our pal Davey Perez, directed by our pal Chris Fisher, both friends of the show. Yes, half of Ortegas' hand is frickin' gone, not arm. How you doing today, Sirach?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. How about you?
Pretty great as well. Everybody, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for notifications. If you're listening in, give us a nice 5-star rating and a cool review. We'd really appreciate that. Also, join the team at patreon.com/the7th-rule. Once again, that's patreon.com/the7th-rule. So, first things first, Sirach. I have many thoughts, but how long did it take you to get back into the swing of things? I mean, like, we did get the previously on Strange New Worlds, which helped a lot, but did it take you a minute to be like, oh yeah, I like him, or oh, that's my favorite character, oh, that's right, those two are, sometimes it takes a minute.
Yeah, it took me a minute. Actually, when it said previously on Strange New Worlds, and I was like, I've never seen this before. What is this? So I, I forgot the episode, the last episode already. Like, so I had to remind myself, like, oh yeah, no, they did end on a cliffhanger.
Right.
You
It was
know,
2 years.
Yeah.
It was 2 years. Back in the day, we used to cry that we had to wait 3 months or 4 months in between seasons, but 2 years was a doozy.
It's a long break, and I did forget where we left off. I mean, I was under the impression that, I mean, you can't put a 2-year break on a to be continued episode.
That was torture.
What is that? I mean, it's a two-parter.
Yeah.
That's, you know what I mean. That you need to, what you have to have some kind of, at least 3 months. You're like, okay, 3 months ago, I couldn't wait to find out who killed Jr. or whatever cliffhanger they left you on at the end of the series. But
Yeah.
what the hell?
It was
I
the strikes. The strikes happened.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah, but I forgot
what
the
did us
episode.
in. Yeah.
I forgot the episode. I forgot the previous.
And that's why I was so
episode.
thankful for the previously on. Usually when we get the previously on any Star Trek shows, I skip it because I'm like, I know, I just watched this last week. I know what it is. But this time I was like, oh, good, thanks. I need this. It was like a cramming for the. I was like, this is helpful. I need this. And the one thing I remembered very clearly, and most Star Trek fans remembered very clearly, and the thing that everybody's been talking about in the 2 years was whether Captain Batel was going to live or die, because she was infected or inseminated or whatever it is by the Gorn. And so that was the big thing. There have been so many polls and discussions and fights and squabbles about whether Captain Batel is going to die. And we finally got the answer. Everybody, spoiler, she is going to die, but she did not die in this episode. Someday, don't know if it's season 3 or when she's old and gray, but at least in this episode, she has survived, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I guess I was less worried about that, and maybe
we were worried. People were freaking out, man.
Oh, people were freaking out.
Yeah.
I almost had to like remind myself who that is. That is Pike's like love interest,
right,
on this show, right? And because I don't see that many scenes between the two of them, in my mind, they have it's not the closest of relationships, let's say.
Well, it's because she's not a regular, she's recurring. She's been in maybe 5 episodes, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
It's established that she is his girlfriend, but she's not really around that much, She's captaining her own ship.
Which is, that's fine, but I'm just saying, as far as being attached to as a character, my level of connection to the character is not as high as it would be, for example, with Ortegas or Una or Uhura. You know what I
Did you
mean?
think Ortegas was going to die? Because at the end there, it looked pretty grim
Uh,
for her.
I didn't think she was going to die.
Okay.
I did think that Battelle would die.
Mhm.
Actually, was a little disappointed when she. I was like, and the reason why I was disappointed, not to say that I'm rooting for her to die.
Right.
The reason I was disappointed is because everything ended perfectly. Uh, you know what I mean? It was like, oh,
Yeah.
we thwarted the Gorn, we saved her life, we beamed all the people back. Nope, nothing, no losses. You know what I mean?
Well,
And so,
that's usually part two of a two-parter right there. That's usually how
yeah,
it goes. But
yeah,
yeah,
I would
that's
have liked.
true.
I was kind of hoping that and I know it sounds, again, I'm not putting any shade on the character and the actor portraying Battelle. I'm just saying, from my own perspective, to further the rift between Spock and Nurse Chapel, I thought there would be some, oh, Spock, you suggested this, and we went with
Oh,
what you said.
wow. That would be great.
Yeah, do
Yeah.
you see what I mean?
Yeah. Just furthering that divide right there where it's like he's trying to save a life and this and that. And they let their friend down who dies, the
Yes,
captain down, they let him down, of course. And Spock makes this suggestion. Chapel tries it, and then she dies. That would be pretty heavy. Yeah, that would be
that would
pretty
be
crazy.
heavy.
Yeah.
That would be heavy, and I thought that would be something that could add to their drama between them in their relationship. Because there's this tension back and forth. Like, hey, let's pause it. I still kind of like you. They had a kiss moment, but it was also like it's not for sure that they're together. Even though, we kind of want them to be together. I guess that's what I feel like I'm cheering for.
I sure do.
Like,
Yeah. But it's not happening.
it
She's
doesn't
moving
seem to be happening. Yeah.
she's moving away to go study with Roger Corby. And what we know from the original series is Nurse Chapel ends up being with Roger Corby. So that's why when
Okay.
she says, I'm going to go study with Roger Corby, all the fans are like, uh-oh, you know what that means. She's going to go
Uh,
study with him for 3 months, is what she's
mm.
saying. But we're all thinking by the time she comes back, she's going to have like a ring, and she'll be like, oh, sorry. Oops.
Talk to the hand.
Yeah. So sorry. So, I'm sorry. Did the ring get in your face? I'm so sorry. Here we go.
Do you see anything different when I do it like this as opposed to like this?
Yeah. So anyway, so that's why every time she mentions Robert Corby or Roger Corby, a lot of the fans are going like, "Uh-oh,"
Okay, that's good to know because now I can ask a couple of probing questions. I didn't know about the Roger Corby thing, so I didn't know that that was a bad dead end kind of thing for Spock's perspective. But so is that her professor at the? Is that her professor where she's going? And she says study with.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I'm going to look him up right now. He's an archaeologist, and he was engaged to Nurse Chapel. And I'm trying to remember what she's planning. It was something related to that. She said again, yeah, again, it was 2 years ago, and it was something like archaeological biology or some kind of thing that blends the two.
Okay.
She was going to go study that with him, and then he presumably she ends up engaged to him because in the original series they were engaged. Now we don't know if it's going to happen in these 3 months or if he's just going to come back, but whatever it is, it's kind of like Captain Pike. We saw in the cage, sorry, in the original series, what his fate holds.
Right.
And so we know what a lot of people's fate holds. We know where Uhura's going. We know where Scotty's going. We know all these people. We just don't know how they get there. And that's where the great storytelling comes in, is them telling us how they get to this point.
Okay. I thought it was great when Nurse Chapel says, she's like, look, I just want you to know, don't do any weird thing, like, try, well, she hits him with like, don't do any weird thing.
Don't make it weird, bro. Don't make it weird.
Yeah. And I thought about my own like life experiences where, I may have went over and just made it weirder than it had to be just because. So that was really good advice on her part, like don't write me a poem or, lay rose petals out. Like it's going to make it worse. You know what I mean? So I thought that was funny to me.
But Spock kind of only knows how to make things weird. There's a
Kinda
certain thing where he's
awkward.
like a
Yeah.
little,
Yeah,
he's Spockward, right? Yeah.
He's Spockward. Yeah. That's his natural state is just like a little bit weirdness, right? It's just like the timing, like even when he like to walk up and say, "Hey, I just want to talk to you." Like this girl, like she's about to birth a gourd out of her face, Like there's other times to talk. She's literally, facing imminent death, and he's like, "I just want to talk to you." And he's like, "All right, Spock, what do you want to talk about?" I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and that's. But I did not know that there was a future love interest kind of waiting for her on the other end, with this character. But look, let me just say, it didn't take me long to understand why I like this show.
Oh man, in that first 10 seconds, even, yeah.
It speaks to me in so many ways. The characters are characters I feel familiar with and that I like. The set design is remarkable. It's just, I don't think it can get better as far as set design. The directing is great. The dialogue, the writing, Davey Perez really knocks it out the park. You could tell he has the voice of the characters in this. And, each character has their own personality traits. I thought Pike again, there were reasons that I saw in this episode again, which is why I think Anson Mount is fantastic as Pike. He just says little things. He has emphasis on words. He knows how to deliver lines. And he knows how to be distant when he needs to be distant, but also relatable and kind of, almost empathetic in very brief spurts, which I like because it's not an overly overdose of it. It's like, I'm really strict most of the time, but I can reveal to you that I have this side that I can be empathetic to who you are, and I can give you a little bit of sensitivity in a brief moment. So I thought that was good.
Yeah, he's tough, but he has some chill. And I'll tell you, I felt the same way. Like, I thought, I'm going to sit down and I know the characters really well. I feel like in just 20 episodes, remember, it's only been 20 episodes. I think we all have a very good idea of the characters already, which is great. But what I was a little concerned about was like, how quickly will I get back into it? Because sometimes I'm watching a Next Generation episode and, it takes a while sometimes. Sometimes it takes a while for the episode to pick up or something like that. But this was like, in the first 10 seconds, I'm just gripped because the special effects, the visual effects are unbelievable. The music is gorgeous. Nami Melamad, who does those, of course, she's great. It's just like, the theme song is also awesome. Jeff Russo, like every single department, the actors blow me away. Like, so it was immediate. And I usually pause a lot to take notes. I hardly paused. I was just kind of like staring and watching it go all the way through. I mean, it was a very good 47 minutes or whatever it was of television. I was gripped. I didn't pause. I didn't look away. It was really good.
Yeah, I just thought it was really good. I mean, they had clearly they had an A-B story, right? So we
Yeah,
had the crew
perfect.
set up,
And C.
and C. So they had, but the main thing was dividing up the basically away team who's
Hmm.
caught up in the Gorn situation, and then you have the crew on the ship, right?
Yep.
So that's great for storytelling because now you got 20 minutes of something and 25 minutes of something else of the A story B story combination. Great mixture and balance there. Then you break that in with uh, the romance between Spock and Chapel. That's an element of the story. The leadership of who was it that was just really great when she was on the
La'an.
La'an. Yeah, La'an's leadership
Yeah.
was fantastic. I just liked her taking control of the moment, giving them some direction, calling out orders, giving them encouragement, just everything that it took in that to survive that situation that they were in. La'an was, you know, um, fantastic in it. Christina Chung was just amazing in
Yeah.
her role on that. So you got so many elements there. You got the love story with Pike and his girl. You've got Spock and his girl going through a love story. You got Ortega's kind of dealing with injury and also reasserting her identification as like I'm the freaking pilot. I fly
Yeah.
everything that needs to be flown, right? So just like reminders for me of why I love these characters. Uhura had some a little talk back sass for Pike, which I thought was great. She's like, doesn't seem. What does she say? Uh, yeah, unless they look out a window, right?
Not.
She was talking,
Yeah.
right? And Pike kind of looks. He shoots her a look like, you know, a nice soft look right there. Another moment, for example, when Pike did some sensitivity things there. I mean, like just moments where you just see him connecting with other characters. This Lieutenant Mitchell.
Jenna Mitchell. Yeah. I think this was a made up character. I don't remember seeing her in the original series or in the cage, but we've seen her throughout these, certainly in the second season. I don't know if we saw her in the first season, but she's always
Yeah.
been there next to Ortegas, but she's got her role.
Yeah, so she had a line that was great. She was just like where Pike kind of walks up to her and says, "Hey, look, you've been working a lot. And why don't you go take a break and come back when you're rested?" And she had her line where she says, "I'm not leaving till we get everyone back." Like
Mhm.
you could see, she's like misses her friends, she misses her crew, and she wants to give it everything she's got. And
Yeah.
his line, his delivery, great, was one of those copy, like the way
Mhm.
he said copy.
And,
It
he,
was
and then he
just
turns back and he says, "Thank you."
yeah.
And actually, they cut out this part, but she says, "Oh, about that promotion, by the way." Just later, we want to. Now, no, later. We'll talk about it later. Yeah. Anyway.
So yeah, there was just moments all over this thing that I thought, good for them. I wish it wasn't so long of a delay.
Mm,
Um, and maybe that made the actors that much more eager to get back into things or whatnot. I don't know how the filming delay was, but it just felt like Strange New Worlds all over again. That is quality programming.
totally. Yeah, and it's quality like in every facet. Like, it's great that they have kind of 8 or 9 leads, but then they have these recurring characters that really allowed us to have 3 or 4 different stories. There was Captain Patel, who's added to there. There's Jenna Mitchell. Each group had somebody like that. Then down on the planet, there was Sam Kirk that was added to their group.
Yeah,
Then there was also Pelia and Scotty, by the way. So now we have Scotty, who is impressing the hell out of Captain Pike, and Pelia. So, now we all know that Scotty is going to eventually end up on the Enterprise. This takes place maybe like 6 years before the original series. So maybe he leaves and then he comes back on the Enterprise, but probably not. Most likely, there's going to be something where it's like, okay, this kid's great. We need to keep him on the ship. And by the way, I have a prediction about this. I noticed At the end of the first season, we were introduced on the last episode of the first season. We were introduced to Kirk, and then remember, there's Kirk, played by. Why can I not remember his name? Anyway,
I remember Kirk.
Paul Schaefer. No. Anyway, let me check real quick. It's killing me. So that's at the end of the first season, right? Then at the end of the second season, it's Paul Wesley. Thank you. It's killing me. Then at the end of the second season, we were introduced to Scotty. So I'm noticing a trend here. We're going to be introduced to somebody at the end of this season, theoretically, if this happens every season. And I think that would be a really great idea that they do. At the end of every season, they introduce us to an original series character, and then they just leave us off, and the original series takes place after that. So my guess is, who's missing right now? Bones, Sulu, not Chekhov, because he wasn't in the first season of the original series. So, I mean, they could introduce him, but he'd be like a teenager, and he's not going to be on the ship, so there's no reason to do that. But it's either Bones or Sulu. I'm guessing Sulu. I think it'd be cool to have Sulu. There's also a dark horse. It could be Janice Rand. I think it'd be awesome if they introduced Janice Rand. But anyway, my prediction is at the end of the third season, we will be introduced to another original series character, maybe Sulu or Bones or Janice Rand. That's it. That's all I got there.
Okay. All right.
I like to nerd out on that stuff and just predict what they're working with, because so far it's a great idea.
Who are the ones they've given us so far? You said they've given us Sam Kirk.
Of the main people.
At the end of the seasons.
At the end of the first season, they introduced us to Captain Kirk. James T. Kirk, right? And then at the end of the second season, they just introduced us to Scotty, who's now on the ship with Pelia.
Okay. Yeah. It could be. That's an interesting kind of take on it. I didn't think about it like that, but that would be cool.
Yeah, it seems like that's where they're going, and that's such a fun idea. Such a fun thing they're doing.
Yeah.
Well, tell you what, let's take a quick break, since I just nerded out a little too hard. I think I need to catch my breath. We'll be right back on the Seventh Rule. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Seventh Rule with Sirach, the Game Changer Lofton.
Hello.
Here are the trivioids of the week. Spock wants to modify a homing beacon. Captain Patel is allergic to cryoserum. La'an wakes up in a slime sack. La'an always starts with the doctor. Half of Ortegas's hand is frickin' gone. Scotty's commanding officer went down with a star diver. Nurse Chapel tells Spock they need to take time apart. And Captain Pike finds a way to punch back. All right. So, back to this episode. What did you think of the crew? I want to call them the downstairs crew, but the ones that were on the planet. It was a 4-person crew. There was our guy Babs, who's awesome. There was La'an, who we love, of course. There's Sam Kirk, the recurring character. He's the brother of Captain Kirk. By the way, we know that Sam Kirk dies in the original series, but we don't know, we never got to really meet him, because in the original series he was just a dead body with a mustache. So they built this whole character around that. And then there's also Ortegas. So it's a good crew.
But okay, so yeah, I like that crew. First thing I can say is I like the set design.
That was nuts.
It was really, I was looking in the background. I was like, how big is this place, this cavern? And like what is going on, and what did they make the actual sack out of? The embryonic kind of sack. What was it? Don't give that smirk.
What? I just allergies. I got allergies.
But yeah, no, I was thinking, how well this thing looked. It just was designed beautifully, and I had vibes of like Aliens.
100%.
Did you get some of that Alien vibe?
Absolutely. And I loved it.
Yeah, I did too. So, and then I thought it was clever to find the weapons inside of the whatever digestive filter track or whatever that was. So like little things like that it was really cool. Seeing that phaser rifle dripping with slime as it lit up and it was dripping off the front of the barrel. I thought that was great visual effect.
Hmm.
Um, so in general, I enjoyed just them being in that scenario.
Hmm.
Now, you know, then they got it. Then they got actual confronted by the court. So that's when it became pornography.
Okay. So I think what this thing was their big giant VR wall, right?
Yeah,
Where they can create basically anything, because sometimes we look at these sets, yeah, and I think the same thing. I'm like, what are they, in a stadium? How big is this thing? And then you realize
yeah,
it's got to be a VR wall. It's got to be this thing that creates this depth, and they just spend, feels like, millions of hours programming this stuff because it looks incredible. You can't tell where the set ends and the
right.
wall begins. Like, you can't, I don't see it because I'm looking just like you surely were. And I'm
Yeah,
just extremely impressed with the work that they do, honestly. And it must in some ways make it even easier for the actors to really get into it, because you're looking around and you're seeing what we're seeing, which is like you're just surrounded by this giant vastness of alien goop. It must be so much fun.
I can only imagine because when we were doing our special effects, it was green screen stuff.
Yeah.
So they would say, "There's a Gorn behind you," and you're like, "Ah," you know. So that's that's you having to, and then maybe they use stuff on strings and balls, tennis balls to look at for eye lines and stuff like that. Um, but for the most part, you have to visualize that you're in this dark cavern inside the Gorge
Hmm.
destroyer, right? You have to put that in your head. But for them to help the actor and build the set, and then you're looking back at a backdrop that makes you feel like fearful. Like it's not easy. I mean, it's not difficult to play fear or loneliness or those kinds of emotions that you would have in a situation where you're in this vast space and you don't know how to free other people that are in these pods and whatnot. It just seems like it's a helpful tool not only for the directors but for the actors and for me as the audience watching. Like you just elaborated, I can't find a single place where the cut lines are easy for me to
Yeah.
see. Where I can distinguish between, oh, that's the set that they're standing on, and that's the backdrop. So I really enjoy it. And shout out to Chris Fisher. I thought Chris Fisher did a fantastic job
Yeah.
in this episode. You know what I mean? Uh, so, for example, those Gorn shots were in a darker space, whereas a lot of the bridge stuff was happening in a lighter space and even sometimes super bright with the twin star effect
Right.
and everything. So he was really just playing all over the place as far as light was concerned. There was a darkness, there was a light, there was everywhere in between on this episode. He also did some things that I thought were interesting. When they were entering into that twin star and they were trying to turn themselves into some type of star themselves, they he used some slow motion kind of stunting shots while he was looking at Ahura. Did you see the blurred?
Yeah. Yeah. What was that? What would because we can always kind of, point out a rack focus or things like that. But I couldn't tell what that effect was.
Yeah, I couldn't tell either, but it did have like a level of distortion to it, a level of freezing up, and it was just enough distortion that it actually really looked well. And something I hadn't seen before in Star Trek, which is amazing because much stuff you see in Star Trek to do anything that hasn't been kind of tried or executed in some way. I thought, wow, did Chris Fisher just do something that I haven't seen before? It was a great visual effect while they were going through this whatever transforming the ship into a supernova or whatever it was. I loved that those couple of quick blurred static shots that showed some distortion. And there was a few of them. One was on Ahura, I think one was on Pike, and there was a brightness on their face, so he used a really heavy light on them. It was just really good. An orange glow light.
Great effect that, and if they're always trying to use a new effect to match the new situation. You know what I mean? And so that's what they did, because they're putting us in the same kind of point of view as the characters are. The characters are trying something they've never done before and nobody's ever done, and it sounds crazy and it sounds weird. So we want to see an effect that we've never seen before. So it puts us there with them where we're like, what's going on? This is weird. It just works. And I thought that was very effective. Good job, Chris Fisher, but we know he's awesome. And
that wasn't the only thing he did. I mean, he did another shot where he did like a spin around while Pike was standing on the bridge, and he kind of turned around and he was upside down for a while and kind of kept it going back. Another like great shot. He had a nice pull back of at the very end of the episode where the ship was also spinning out and going off into the distance. It was a nice exit shot for this episode. So yeah, I thought he did a few things that I really enjoyed. And also, we never talk about the makeup that much on this show because a lot of human characters and whatnot.
True.
But the makeup for the Gorn bird thing that was happening.
Oh, yes. Yeah. The makeup effects, that was grisly, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was like, it was making me feel some type of way as if I was actually seeing something. And I thought, wow, that's pretty good because it's invoking like this reaction from me that's like, this is.
Yeah, that's flat out in her back. There's just stuff growing and like getting ready to explode out of her back. Because that's how they were getting killed in the second season, is they would inseminate them or implant these eggs in them, and then those things would grow and they would explode out and just like climb out and start eating things, and so the person would basically just get ripped to shreds.
Yeah,
it's pretty inventive.
Yeah. Well, if I'm Pike, I definitely don't want to be in the room when that's going on. I'm just gonna be like, Chapel, just give me a report. She's like, you want to take a look at the patient? Nope.
No. Actually, that was a really nice moment, though, when Pike is giving orders. He's like, blah, 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 does this thing like that. And then he just covertly sneaks on, looks at his little view screen that's down by his hand, his little console, and he checks her vitals. I thought that was great. That was great show, don't tell. He's just kind of checking in, and beautiful. There were a lot of really good moments and a lot of personal moments. Everybody got time. I mean, how many characters was that? That was 4 on the bridge, 3 in sick bay, although 1 was out, 4 on the planet, and 2 in engineering. So what is that? I don't know, 4, 2, 10, 13 characters. All got a lot of time, except Patel. It was mostly her back that we saw. That's a lot of people to
cover. But we did get and I did like the Pelia and Scotty stuff. I thought Pelia and Scotty, their back and forth was great. The fact that she was kind of harping on him. I like when she says, too much time on your hands, you need to take forever, so I gotta light a fire under you by making you rush, that's why Scotty, as we see later on in the original series, is always under some time like
he is.
It's like, I need 4 hours, and he's like, no, Scotty, you got 30 minutes. I needed 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's all, and that's when he works his best. And so they kind of backstory write that in this episode a little bit, right? They give us some of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so that's why I think this show is doing a remarkable job of backfilling a story that we already know when it comes to the original characters in the original series.
Mm-hmm.
while giving us new stories presented in the most newest, format that they have with the VR walls and the visual effects that they have to, the current visual effects that are even more high tech and more detailed. So the facts are we're getting a little bit of everything. We're getting the nostalgia. We're getting the high tech brand new stuff. We're checking the box of the old, the new, and also some fantastic performances. I thought Ethan Peck, he's so natural in his performance. I thought he was fantastic. He his scenes with Jess, I just really enjoyed it. Um, I thought, I had a moment to myself where I was thinking, what if Leonard Nimoy was watching this show?
Hmm.
And just my own, like, in my head thought about this. What would he think of Ethan Peck and his performance? And as I was watching him, I was thinking, I think Leonard Nimoy would be proud
Yeah.
of the work that Ethan Peck has done and is doing to, honor and pay homage to Spock. I think he's doing a fantastic job. And I think Leonard
Also,
Nimoy would agree with that.
yeah, I think Leonard Nimoy would be very appreciative too. He'd be like, "Wow, you're making Spock look buff, bro. That's pretty cool. Thanks, man."
Very
He'd be
cool.
like, "I owe you one. You're making Spock
Good
look pretty ripped."
Yeah, good looking out.
But yeah, no,
But no,
I agree with you. I think that he would look at this and be proud that, like, Ethan Peck is doing an amazing job of creating Spock's backstory with the writers. In that we're not going to have the Spock that we fully recognize from Leonard Nimoy. We're having the Spock that is changing into that guy. So right now, this one is still struggling with emotions day to day. Leonard Nimoy Spock would struggle with emotions here and there, but mostly had him in check. He was just like this. This is the young Spock that's just figuring it all out, and it's been great. I actually really like Ethan Peck's performance.
yeah, and so do I. So I think this Melissa Navia, her performance was fantastic in this as well. I just like it. She has great energy. She has a real confidence of who she is and how she
Mm-hmm.
performs in her character. I love it. And, she just brings her A game all the time. This cast, I like. Jim Kirk, even with his goofy mustache that
Sam Kirk, yeah.
bothers me when I see him because I'm like,
I know.
I'm sorry, Sam Kirk.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm like, what? And Sam Kirk saved that thing, man. But yeah, even him, he was funny in this. He had moments. We didn't get that much in Dr. Mbenga. I would have liked a little bit more, but he'll have his moments. This was more. I thought the theme of this was love story. It was Gorn, obviously. It was Gorn, right, as the main. Okay, and we got to see the Gorns. We always talk about not seeing the Gorn. We actually saw the Gorn and got a nice close-up visual. But you got the main story of the Gorn, but there's also the sub story of love and losing love, right? Because Spock is losing his love in this. He's losing his love. Pike is potentially losing his love, and so that's what I felt was the other underlying current of this episode, which I enjoyed. I thought it worked well.
That's a good point that both couples were dealing with loss, right? Spock is like, am I losing Chapel forever? Pike, am I losing Battelle like at her life forever? That's a good point.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. And Battelle really has a nice moment where she's like, look, whatever it takes, just kill me if I go full gore now. don't let it happen. Take me out. And that's kind of a character thing about who she is as a person, like her desire to think about others more than herself, right? She's selfless in that moment. Like, hey, look, don't worry about me. Don't let this get out of hand. So I thought that was, a nice little moment for her character.
That's what La'an said to Ortegas too. No,
Yeah,
don't let this get out of hand. But actually,
yeah.
what La'an said to her did crack me up. It was like when Ortegas goes, what the heck, or well, holy crap, I'm missing half my freaking hand. La'an, what's the first thing La'an says? She comes up to her and she goes, relax. I'm like, bro, you relax. I'm missing half my hand. Maybe you didn't hear me the first time. I thought Ortegas was pretty relaxed for the situation. She wasn't like that. She was like, whoa, I'm missing half my hand. She's like, relax. I was just cracking me up. I'm like, damn, La'an. She doesn't take shit. She's like, that's enough. That calm down, or I'm going to shoot you. I'm tired of this already.
Yeah, she should have said, I would give you the finger, but I lost it.
Oh no.
No, I also like when I think Uhura was saying, oh no, Scotty and Pelia were telling him, Pike, look, if we even tried to do this thing that you're talking about and turn ourselves into a star, the chances are literally 1 in 1,000. And then Pike kind of does one of these, I like those odds. Like, and it was just a nice moment, though.
Yeah. I wonder if Pike is now more willing to gamble because he's seen in his future that he gets blown up and all, destroyed and stuff. So maybe he's like, all right, I want to do risky things where we could all just blow up and die, because I'll take the blow up and die instead of like the half die thing. You know what I mean? So maybe he's like, oh, let's go out in a blaze of glory. Maybe he's just a little bit more cavalier cowboy guy.
Yeah. Or the other way to see that is also like, what about if for example, that you're going to die in a helicopter crash? I'm just putting that out there, right? That means everything else you can go balls to the wall on. You're like,
not
dying on a motorcycle.
That is so true. You know what? That's probably even more likely, where he's like, I already know my future. Yeah. I already know what's going to get me, and this ain't it. So as long as there's a 1 out of some number, doesn't matter what the second number is, I know I'm going to get that 1. That's a very good point. Yeah.
That's what I mean. So I think that's really what the approach that he's approaching life with. It's like, hey, wait a minute. This ain't the way I go out. Let's try it. Let's go for it. Mm-hmm. And so he can turn into a real stunner like that. Yeah.
Cypress Hill would agree with him. That's for sure.
I had one other kind of mention. I know we're going to kind of pivot, but I did want to mention something that I don't think I've ever seen, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because you have way more Star Trek knowledge than I do. But this might be the first time that I heard the Lord's Prayer in a Star Trek episode.
Whoa, I missed it. When was it?
If I'm not mistaken.
It must be the first time. I've never heard it. Yeah.
Yeah. Pike says something, he walks into the room, he sees Patel down, and he thinks maybe she's not responding or something, and she says, "Our Father who art in heaven," and then she interrupts him. And I've never heard that before. An actual straight prayer like that,
That's a good point.
I've seen Bajorn praying and other kind of praying, but not a specific prayer that is well known. And this is, he starts off, "Our Father who art in heaven." So I was like, whoa, this must be the first time I've ever seen this. I don't know if you've seen that before.
No, that's pretty good. Shout out to Baby Jesus or whatever.
That's a Will Ferrell.
No, but that's pretty good. That's a good point. I don't think I've ever heard that. Right. Yeah, I think you're right there. Yeah. Pretty good stuff. And also tells us more about Pike, who he is, and also just what he was going through. Also, I wanted to point out again, towards the end, we had another space battle, right? And it was just visually gorgeous. It was unbelievable. And I'm not usually the kind of guy where it's like, I need to see amazing ship battles for an episode to be good, you know. But in this case, it just looked so incredible that you can't help but be drawn into it. You're just like, this is amazing. It tells its own story. A good space battle tells its own story. Like, you see, this is how the other guys fight their battles, you know, certain formations or certain way their ships spin or certain colors in that star system, or, you know, just certain things. It tells you a whole story without saying a word, just by watching. And it was just gorgeous, I thought.
Yeah, I have to agree. When they kind of said, you know, when they had all those ships coming out of that twin star thing, and they said, I think we might have found their home world. I was like, oh my god, they found Gorn Hub, because I've been on that for a while.
That is the Gorn Hub. That was definitely the Gorn Hub. And if that joke wasn't said 40 times on set, shame on you.
Shame on all of you.
But we know it was. Anyway, I'm just about done with this one, but hey, who gets the home run of today's episode? What do you think? Who gets the home run of today's episode?
Oh, season. Let's see. You know, I'm going to give it to Davey Perez and Chris Fisher. I think Davey Perez wrote a great script. Great script. It took us, 2 years to get to it, but we got to it. I think the voice of the characters are there. The Gorn as the main villain is great. And Chris Fisher directing it, I thought he did some unusual things. He took some chances. He gave us some new stuff. And so I'm going to give it to the two of them. The acting wise, it's so well balanced that it's hard to pick out somebody who singularly was better. So I'm going to go with writer director.
I think that's very good points on your part. And it is really hard to single out one actor, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to try, because I had to think about it just now. I was like, wait, who gave me a couple moments where I was like, oh, that's really good. And in this episode, and in several episodes in the past, it turns out, it was Jess Bush. She gave some really good facial reactions that, it's going to sound weird to say, but I didn't know she had it in her. Not because I didn't just see her do it 20 other episodes that were amazing, but just because she has such versatility in her facial reactions that I was actually really impressed. I was like, wow, she can really just, I don't want to say like flip a switch, but she really emotes these different levels and these different moods, and obviously different reactions and things like and expressions. But I was really impressed. I can't remember exactly which scene it was, but I definitely noticed. So big ups to her, and home run to Jess Bush for showing off her amazing skills. All right. I think that's just about it for us, but we do want to give a shout out to some other people that have amazing skills. And their names are Dr. Anne-Marie Seagull, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackman, Tom, TJ Jackson Bay out in Missouri, Titus Muller, Dr. Mohammed Noor, Anil O. Palat, Joe Balsarati, Mike Gu, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, The Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Jake Barrett, Henry Unger, Allison Leach Hyde, Julie Manosfi, Jed Thompson, Susan V. Gruner, Glenn Iverson, Dave Gregory, Chris Sternett, Greg K. Wickstrom, Cassandra Gerard, Chuck A., Chris Garris, and of course, Jason M. Oken. You guys, got to say, forgot to mention this at the top, but we also had some people that sponsored this episode, and those people are, here it is. Dave Gregory sponsored this entire season.
What?
Like a year and a half ago. On our Indiegogo, like a year and a half ago. He sponsored it. So we hung on to this. And Dave Gregory, thank you so much for your patience and for sponsoring this entire season. Also, our friends Chris Garris and Victor Ling for sponsoring this episode. We really appreciate you.
Oh, wow.
So cool. Great episode to choose, by the way. That's it for us, right?
Yeah. That's it.
All
Yeah,
right,
I loved
everybody.
it.
We'll
back,
see you
Strange
next
New Worlds.
time. And, well, I guess I was going to say we'll see you next week, but I guess we'll see you right after this one because there's 2 episodes dropping in a row.
Yeah.
Like on the same day. See you next time on The 7th Rule. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The 7th Rule with Sirach Lofton. It's time for the free-for-all with Melissa Longo. And her headphones can't hear you, though. Jason M. Oken is also here.
Hi, everybody.
You just got back from France, lucky. Eve England out in Wales is here as well. Well, she's in Wales. Faith Howell is on the bridge of the Enterprise D. Carrie Schwentz says you can call her Crafty Bear. And Chuck A is the TNG fanatic. All right. Well, we can't really do Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score, right? Because
it's got one.
We can
It's got one already?
Mm-hmm.
oh, all right. Give it a guess, Sirach. I haven't looked.
I've got it in the high 7s, low 8s, so around 7, 9.
I want to guess.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
Me
since
too.
this episode literally just came out today, that it's going to be pretty high. There are going to be a couple people going like, no, I'm giving it a 1 because new Trek and new Trek sucks. But everybody else can be like, oh my God, it's a 10. It's so good. I love Star. So I'm going to say 8.9.
I was going to say that too. I'm going to go 8.8.
Ooh, edgy.
I'll go 7-8 or yes. For
8.5.
8.5, okay. We're in the range.
What's the answer, Carrie? What do you got for us?
As of an hour ago, it was 8.7.
Oh, Melissa.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't expect there to be a score, but I figured, what the heck, I check, and sure enough, there
That's
was one.
quick.
I
That's
didn't
quick.
catch any non-appearance
Yeah.
mentions. Did you? Okay. Well, Melissa, will
Scotty
you...
did do some kind of, though.
Oh, what was it?
I forgot what it was, but it was when he was sitting right here, and it's some kind of something, maybe shield. I don't know.
Okay.
Paging Chris McGee. Paging Chris
Right.
McGee. All right. Well, Melissa Longo, will you please get us started off on the right track? Since you got closest to the IMDb score and you got closest to knowing a some kind of, what do you think of this episode?
I loved this episode. I'm so glad Strange New Worlds is back because this show rocks. I love it. I love that they, in old Star Trek fashion, the entire crew is working together to solve a problem. It's not just one hero in this. They're all kind of heroes in their own way, and that's wonderful. These people are really good at their jobs, and we get to see why they're good at these jobs. I love that Captain Pike listens to his crew for that reason and takes their advice and then decides which one what plan he's going to go with. I love the different interactions and the different relationships that we get to see. I enjoyed the interaction between Spock and Nurse Chapel. That was really great. I really loved the interactions between La'an and Mbenga. I thought that was really great. And surprise, surprise, I loved this pairing. I loved this pairing. And I love that we get a lot of Scotty's character within this episode. We get to see what makes him tick. We get to see that he feels emotions. He's not one note. We get to see what drives him and that he really works well under pressure. But if he's got time, he kind of lollygags. I love that kind of thing. There were a couple of things. Oh, I was I was pleasantly surprised how they worked out how to save Battelle, because I thought that was going to be kind of hokey, and they didn't. It made sense. I love that they found out that, sorry, I'm going to try and make this as brief as possible. I love that they discovered that the Gorn have like a hibernation period, which actually happens in reptiles. It's called a brumation, and they actually have a period of this sleep that they go into. And I thought that was so brilliant that they brought that up. The writing is great. It was shot great. And I love that it was sufficiently disgusting in on the Gorn ship, because they're in the digestive tract. And the sounds, oh my gosh, they were so gross. The sounds coming from the gurgling, it was like a gurgly stomach. It was disgusting. And and Sam Kirk throwing up, I did not need to see that. We never need to see barf on, and yeah. But anyway, I'll stop there. I could go on and on and on. I loved it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Melissa Longo. It does sound like you did love it. Jason M. Oken probably loved it too, but we'll let him tell you. What'd you think of it?
Well, just you wait.
Uh-oh.
Is right. I often approach these kind of season premieres off cliffhangers with a little bit, of trepidation, because sometimes when you kind of write part one, build up sort of the suspense and paint yourself into a corner, how are you going to get out? I think traditionally we've seen that sort of let down, if you will, in prior treks. And this is something that I was, frankly, a little bit afraid of. But, number one is this episode looks great. I think visually, orally, it's tremendous. And Melissa, you mentioned that. I think it was shot very well. It was acted very well. And I think the strength of the episode is in the characters and the interaction of the characters. If I were to pick anything here, it's how they wrap up the story. I know they have to do this in 40 some odd minutes, and they certainly do it. I think it's a little too quick. I'm not sure I was ever a great fan of the Gorn line. It's always nice to have sort of a boogeyman for every series. I'm not sure I would have picked the Gorn. Could have been anybody else with kind of a reptilian background. Maybe because of Star Trek history, it sort of irks me a little bit. But yeah, be that as it may. I think certain beats, like, Melissa, certain, I guess biologically it works, but Star Trek-wise, where have we seen a sort of an undefeatable enemy put to sleep in part two? It's the best of both worlds. It's really the same thing, but put them to sleep. And I think we've seen Khan blood before. So there are certain beats here that do repeat. And again, I think the strength of the episode and the way it looks, the way it sounds, and the way it was acted, that's what makes it enjoyable. Maybe a little bit too much technobabble, but I'm not sure you can get out of it in any other way. Just enjoy it, I think, and that's all I can say.
All right. We were just talking about you, Chris McGee. How are you?
Good or bad?
Well, you'll have to find out. We're talking about Strange New Worlds, and Eve England is up next. What'd you think of this one?
Yeah, pretty much what Melissa said. I thought it was a really good way to kick it off after waiting for quite a while to sort of get that resolution. I quite liked how different it was. So I loved the first part of this episode back in the last season. And I wasn't quite sure how they were going to sort of resolve it. But I liked how they kind of did like an Alien thing, where the first episode was sort of much more sort of horror and more tense. And then this was kind of like Aliens with like all the action, the big sort of fighting laser guns. And, I really liked that. But I think I would have probably preferred it to be a bit more sort of more of the intensity that we had in that first episode. But having said that, I still really enjoyed it. And I just loved that sort of all the cocoons and how those scenes were just so gory, so hyper violent, which we're just, again, not used to seeing on Star Trek. But then like sort of peppered then with some humor. So it wasn't too heavy, but it wasn't sort of too humorous that it kind of took away from the trauma that La'an was experiencing at that time. So I thought that was really clever the way they did that. And yeah, just La'an is just so cool. So I'm just hoping they keep using her all of the time because she is just super hardcore and amazing.
Are you saying that because you guys are like twins, basically?
I would
Thanks.
to be like her. She's so cool.
She is. She's awesome. Thanks very much, Eve England, out in Wales. Faith Howell, what's up? How are you? What'd you think of this one?
It was a 10. I mean, I don't care what anybody else on the internet says. It was a 10. I will tell you, I started my day this morning recapping part 1. And then Thomas woke up just in time for part 2. So I am like on bated breath, ready for this episode. And he's like, they're gonna die. He kept screaming as I'm trying to watch. And so I had to watch this episode like 3 times after I got him out of the room this morning because he was insistent. He was sure they're all goners. So yes, to echo, of course, what I'm sure all of you are thinking. Scotty and Pelia was great. I loved how she basically tricked him into that crunch time that we know he is so good at. That was beautiful. And I definitely giggled a little bit. Definitely thought Battelle was going to get it. I was with Thomas on that one. Whoa. I did not expect her to make it through this episode. So very cool that they worked it out. And that was unexpected. So, you know, I always love when there's a little surprise in there, pleasantly surprised. Ortegas takes the whole episode for me. Like, lost half her hand, got gored by a Gorn, and still manages to fly a ship that she's never seen before, the inside of before, while inside like a mega ship, and still manages to save the day. So Erica Ortegas flies the ship. Okay, she is the best. And then 2 other things that just kind of hit me funny. Pike's frustration through all of this was like so human, but also so unlike any captain that we've seen so far. And I really respected that because like, it's more true to life, I think. Like, you're going to have those moments of, oh my God, what are we doing? This is the worst. Everybody's going to die. How do I make us not die? And so that was pretty cool to see. And I thought it was fresh and different. However, I did notice in that final scene, like after they saved the day and they're like, oh, and the makeup definitely shows like sweat and grime, but the hair is immaculate. And I'm just like, I want to know like what hairspray they're using. Can I get some of that? So yeah, that's my hot takes for this episode.
Very nice. 10. Thank you very much, Faith Howell, who also flies the ship, because you're sitting in the front of the Enterprise D right now. Carrie Schwent, a.k.a. Crafty Bear. She's got her Gorn shirt on. What do you think of this one?
Darn right. Yeah, keeping on the praise. Loved it. Got up at 4 o'clock this morning to get ready for work and had this to watch while I did all my usual morning things. And then when I got to work, I put it on again because props to Paramount Plus. One of the audio options on the app is the audio description, because we're not allowed to watch videos at work, but I can listen to whatever I want. So I put it on and then listened to the audio description of the episode, and I very much enjoyed that because it definitely helped me pick up a couple things that when you're awake very early in the morning you might miss. But I love that it picks up exactly where the end of season 2 left off. Yeah, we had to wait 2 years, but I feel like it was worth the wait. The comp I have for that came to mind when I was scribbling down notes on my break was Stephen King's Dark Tower series. Book 3 ends on a bit of a cliffhanger. Roland and his group are on this monorail with an insane AI that they challenge him to a riddling contest. So the insane AI won't kill them all. And then there was a 6-year wait before Stephen King published the next book in the series, which starts off with the Red Line Contest, which has a equally satisfying conclusion to, I feel, how the conclusion for this episode wrapped up nicely, I think. And I really like that they made the Gorn scary. I thought they looked great. The Gorn that grins partway through the episode, unlike the grinning Gorn on my shirt, that grin gave me the heebie-jeebies, just goosebumps. Like, oh, creepy. But the inside of the Gorn ship, I really, really liked, because it reminded me, if you've ever seen the reboot of Battlestar Galactica, when they go inside the Cylon base ships, a lot of that kind of has a similar look to it. And there's a Cylon raider that one of them goes inside, and there's some very similar sort of squelchy sounds, although thankfully in Battlestar's case, not as much of the nasty squelching sound, which, like Melissa, I do not care for that sound just at all. And Vega, I definitely want him as like my counselor. He helped everybody in that party just so nicely. I absolutely adore him. Am I the only one when Spock and Christine are talking about that you need to have a little faith? George Michael immediately starts playing in my head when he said that. I can knock at that song out of my head all day long. And I also will hype on the praise for Scotty and Pelia. They were adorable. I laughed out loud. I worried for half a second that I woke Eric up. I laughed so loud when she comes out and screams like, "Oh, the guard are coming! We're all gonna die! Hurry!" But I don't know. I'm like Scotty. Sometimes I don't test very well, even if I know what I'm doing. I never tested that well, so I kind of understand where he was coming from with him, but he knew what it took to motivate him. And I actually did have enough time while I was working to scribble down a quick limerick. I ran it past a coworker, and they assured me that it's not as rough as I thought it was. So I'll finish up with that. I'm tough on you, but I have my reasons. Sometimes my ways are not very pleasing. Fear can aid motivation when you're stuck in frustration. In the end, your project was completed.
Excellent close. Your turn was completed with that limerick. Thanks very much, Carrie Schwent, aka Crafty Bear. Chuck A. He sells plates and he's got a lot of stuff behind him. What do you think about this episode?
Really pleasantly surprised how fast it got into the story. It went right into the battle. I agree with has been said about Erica. We always want more Ortegas. And Scotty and Pelia scenes were just awesome. Martin Quinn was so good as Scotty. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of the stories involving him in coming episodes. Very, as Jason mentioned, very similar storyline to Best of Both Worlds. About you got hibernation and you got the Borg being put to sleep. Very similar story. I was waiting for Mr. Worf Fire, but that never happened. I'm sure that Sam Kirk has some stories he can't tell to his brother Jim about the Gorn that might cause some issues later on. I'm really, really happy with the way that Battelle survived. I didn't think she was going to from her condition she was in. And the Spock and Chapel scenes were awesome about getting her treatments going and getting the right answer to get her through that. really, really happy with the conclusion of the story. After 2 years of waiting, I didn't know exactly where they were going to go with it, and I'm so glad the story was, and the conclusion of the story was really top notch.
Great stuff. Thank you very much. Chuck A, who's going to be at STLV. All right. It's time for Jake's final take. Sirach, any final thoughts?
What about Chris? Is he going to join us, or is
No,
he,
he's joining the next one. So sorry.
All right.
Any final thoughts on this?
I think everybody said it pretty well. My only addition was that, I think this show, I like it so much because it's doing several things. It's serializing the relationship aspect of the characters, so I get that as far as serialization. But then I also get individual episodes and these storylines that I can move on from and let go after I've watched. So I like that carry through because I really like the relationships between these characters, and I like seeing them interact with each other. I think you guys mentioned Scotty and Pelia, and watching them go back and forth is a great thing to watch. I'm really like watching Spock and where he's going as far as his direction, because it seems like a lot of things are happening there, and I really like La'an as well. She's starting to really grow on me. Now, I have a criticism of the show, and this is my only criticism. And it's not just of this episode, but it's a little bit of in general. And that is, I think Una is an underdeveloped character on this show, because every other number one that I can think of who was right underneath the captain got a lot of airtime and a lot of play. You had Spock over there. You had Kira.
Yeah.
You had
Little Riker.
People.
Riker.
Yeah, Riker all over. Yeah, he was all over the episodes, and it was you knew that he was in charge when Picard was away, because he put his impact and mark on the show, and they wrote for him that way. And I feel like Una is underutilized, and it's just more like counselor type character in the background, but I don't see her as I'm in charge when he's gone, and he confides it, and the captain confides in me in these moments of putting trust in me, and we have these kinds of conversations where we're a team, and I just don't see that as much. So if I had any criticism, it would be of how they utilize Una's character. But for the rest of it, I mean, I love the actors. I love the way visually it looks. I think costuming is amazing. Set design is A++. These guys are putting together a beautiful product. But you can always find criticism here and there. But as far as delivering 47 minutes of good Star Trek, that's what they're doing that. And so, it might not be my all-time favorite subject matter, like for the musical episode, for example, which a lot of people love because they love musicals. But my point is they're entertaining, and they're delivering on the promise of giving us Star Trek and being entertaining. So I love that about this show. I wish it wasn't 2 years also, that this delay, because I was like, what the hell happened last time I watched this show? It took a real refresher course just to get myself back into it. And, that's the strike and whatever else out there. But all in all, this is one of my, if not my top favorite Star Trek show.
Boy, Jason was not pleased to hear you saying you didn't enjoy the musical episode. I'll tell you that much. And completely agree with Una being underutilized. I think she deserves a lot more, considering they almost named a card game after her. That's it for us, everybody. Thank you. Thank you to Chuck A., Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Eve England out in Wales, Jason M. Oken, Melissa Longo for myself, Sirach, Melissa, and Mr. Aaron Eisenberg. Thank you all very much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it, and we're so glad that Strange New Worlds is back. We will see you next time. And until then, always remember the 7th rule.